Hi, I'm Megan Rucker, and I am going to be presenting my PowerPoint project starting now. I chose to inform all there is to know about the bearded dragon, geographics, fun facts, care instructions, and more. What is a bearded dragon? The bearded dragon, also known as Pogona viticeps, it also has a handful of other names, but this is the most common proper term. But they're also referred to as a beardy by reptile enthusiasts, is a reptile known for its triangle-shaped head and spiked body used to intimidate predators. They are a medium-sized lizard and can grow anywhere between 12 and 24 inches long. The bearded dragon is known for having a calm temperament, which is one of the reasons they make such a great pet for reptile lovers. The bearded dragon became better known after the appearance in the Disney movie Holes with Shia LaBeouf. And I have included a picture of that to refresh memories on that movie. Where is the bearded dragon from? Australia is their homeland. The bearded dragon native home is Australia, more specifically, southeastern portion. They can be found in woodlands, deserts, and even savannas. They can usually be found perched on a stump or a branch, basking in the sunlight. And basking is a term used to explain how they flatten out their bodies to absorb more heat. The beardy was introduced to the U.S. in the 1990s, and ever since then, they have become a very, very popular reptile, and you can usually find them at any pet store. What do bearded dragons eat? Bearded dragons are omnivores, so their diets consist of any array of vegetables, occasional fruits, and of course insects. The most common insects to feed a beardy are crickets, dubia roaches, butterworms, and superworms. There's a plethora of other insects that you can feed to them, but these are the standard four. Some other ones including earthworms or also the mealworm, but mealworms have a very strong exoskeleton in comparison to the superworm, so it makes it very hard for them to digest. So that's more of a snack or a treat for them versus a staple. The most common and safest vegetables to feed a beardy are carrots, mustard greens, kale, squash, bell peppers, and cucumbers. And once again, just like insects, there's a large amount that you can feed, but these are the most common. They're more accessible, they're cheaper, and the beardies seem to enjoy the taste of them as well. Some safe fruits that many beardies enjoy, especially mine, are bananas and apples. Once again, cost efficiently, they are really easy to get, and beardies really seem to like their flavor. There are also supplement foods in the form of pellets, and the food that kind of looks like little bearded dragon-sized Cheetos that can be purchased to incorporate with their insect and veggies. It provides extra nutrients that they usually, get from insects and vegetables, but it's another a way to feed them for cost efficiency as well as being easy. It's not easy to chop up vegetables and fruit every single day, and they seem to love the taste of it as well. As a side note for care instructions, adult bearded dragons will not and do not need as much insects as a juvenile, and overfeeding them will lead to obesity, and with animals, reptiles, and humans, that's never a good thing for their health. It's also important to note that bearded dragons must consume enough calcium to ensure their bones stay strong, and most bearded dragon owners will use a white powdery calcium substance that they sprinkle on the vegetables, fruits, and or insects to provide that nutrient for them. The bearded dragon's lifespan. Typically in the wild, without handling or care, you'll see a bearded dragon live to about between 5 and 8 years. In captivity, they'll range anywhere from 8 to 14 years. The average lifespan you'll see with proper care in captivity is 8 to 12, and then generally the max lifespan that you will see in captivity is the 12 to 14 span. The longevity is a little bit longer. And then 14 plus years is rare, but it is possible and heard of for a beardy. What type of habitat is needed? There's a lot I could say about this, but generally speaking, to break it down, you have your tank types, and the most popular and cost-effective is the glass tank. It can be purchased from any pet store, usually. You can find a lot on the Facebook Marketplace. There's extremely accessible. Two more common ones are Comanche and melamine tanks, which are also both good choices. Tank sizes go nearly this way. Babies generally need about a 20-gallon tank. When they're 10 to 16 inches long, they need about a 40-gallon tank. 16 to 20 inches long, they need roughly a 75-gallon tank. And then when they're 21 plus inches, they need between 75 and about 120 gallons. Now, don't get me wrong, big side note here, the bigger the tank is actually better. The bigger the better. I mean, they won't hate that. There's nothing wrong with, a bigger tank. They just suggest that's kind of the minimum per length there. With the lighting, bearded dragons need two different lights. The first type of light they need is a UVA, UVB spectrum bulb, and this is to give them the appropriate UVA and UVB they would get typically in the wild from the sun. And then the second light is a heat or basking bulb, which generates the heat that they need, because during the day they typically need to stay between 90 and 95 degrees, and then in the evening it can go down to about 70 to 75. And then with bedding and substrate, it's recommended to use things such as new paper towels, and reptile carpet, which is something you can buy in rolls that is supposed to look like substrate, but it's actually made out of, I can't think what it's called right now, but it's made out of something safer so that they don't consume it when they're eating their vegetables, such as like sand or something I used to use before I was informed that it wasn't the greatest was crushed walnut shells. Tank accessories, anything from rocks, fake plants, even some real plants. There's certain types of succulents, aloe vera plants, basil, some other live plants that they actually can have in their tanks and they will eat off of. There's reptile hammocks, which I have, hideaways, backgrounds, branches, basking platforms, all kinds of things you can find at the pet store. But you can also find things just in your backyard, like sticks, things that they can climb on and create your own habitat. And all you really have to do with that is bring it inside and put it in the oven for about 10 minutes. I believe it's 165 degrees to kill off any particles or bugs that may be a danger to them. This next slide is a display of the reptile habitat that my husband and I made for our two bearded dragons and our leopard gecko. I found this cabinet on Facebook for free. We picked it up 2 days before Christmas, and you'll see the lighting, bright light on the left and right, and those are the bearded dragons' home. They pretty much have their own townhome. They're 2 stories, and then you see the top middle is divided by a tall layer of rocks, and they have kind of like a heated hideaway up there too. So it's 2 stories, and then the bottom middle is our leopard gecko. So it's a pretty cool setup. They have their hammocks, rocks. They have a stick that goes up through a hole between the stories so they can go from the first story to the second story. Fake plants, their food dishes. They seem to like it. And then here is a nice little video that was created while I was actually making this PowerPoint of my my bearded dragon Falcor helping me type up my presentation on the habitat page. Next, we have bearded dragon gestures and their meanings. One moment. Bearded gestures and their meanings. So, bearded dragons have 3 main gestures, and the first one is arm waving. Beardies can wave their arms, kind of like a human would, to say hello to a friend when they feel threatened by a more dominant bearded dragon or animal, or even sometimes people. The arm waving symbolizes that they are submissive to that approaching animal or reptile or person. I like to look at it as their I come in peace wave. They also do something called head bobbing. Usually, when you see a bearded dragon head bobbing, they're displaying dominant behavior. You will see this often when a bearded dragon feels its territory is being threatened, or when it is around another bearded dragon that it just wants to mate with. For instance, my male bearded dragon Falcor was just bobbing his head at my female because he probably wants to jump her on her back. Beard fluffing is the third gesture that is common with bearded dragons, and it's when a bearded dragon can they can expand their beard and chin and darken it to a pitch black color. And this is typically seen when a bearded dragon feels threatened and wants to seem bigger. They don't actually have a defense mechanism. When they feel threatened, they flatten their bodies, turn to the side, and their spikes stick out, but they're actually not really sharp or deadly, or they can't really harm anything. And they'll fluff out their beard as big as they possibly can, and it'll turn black to kind of make a predator seem as though they were,
This is black right now.
No, it's just darker. Okay, and then how to handle a bearded dragon. It's pretty simple. Don't be scared. They smell fear and will eat your hand off. Just kidding. There's 2 tips on how to handle a bearded dragon. They're extremely docile and so easy to handle. Tip number 1 is when picking them up, use both hands if you can and ensure you have a good handle on them so that you don't drop them. When picking them up and holding them, ensure you have all 4 of their limbs resting on something. Most beardies hate not having all 4. I know, just stay still. Most beardies hate not having all 4 resting on something and may get startled. So just holding all 4 limbs is gonna help. We have genetic mutations with beardies. There's 5 main ones. You have the Whitlets mutation, or the Whitlets morph. It's a gene mutation that causes the beardie to be patternless. And this pretty much means that they'd be albino. There's no color to them. They're just really, really pale, almost white. Then you have the leatherback morph, and they can have various patterns and colors. The leatherbacks just have a larger amount of small scales, so they appear and feel smoother than a typical standard morph. And then thirdly, the standard morph, which my 2 bearded dragons are the most similar physically to a wild bearded dragon. They have the standard scale pattern you would see in a wild, the standard color pattern. They're not too bright color-wise. And then there's a silkback morph, and they are born without any scales, so they have a smooth feel to them, even more than the leatherback because they literally have no scales. And then there's the paradox morph. They have random spots, colors on their body. I guess you could simulate that to like in the dog world of a Dalmatian. They're the rarest and most sought after bearded dragon. I have personally never seen one in person. If you're interested in buying a beardie, it'd be fun if you could take this quiz to see how well you know bearded dragons. And I have attached the link there. And then just a little fun fact, meet Falcor and Chica. Falcor is my 5-year-old male beard. Falcor was rescued when he was 5 years old from a pet store. He's missing part of his tail because he was a retired breeder, and more than likely he was put in a tank with another male and not cared after properly and got his tail bit off by another male beardie. And he is now 10 years old and doing well. Chica was my first beardie. I got her in 2010, the summer before my senior year of high school. Hi. The summer before my senior year of high school, and she is now 11 years old. And pictured is just some handling that we have done with the beardies. My daughter holding the beardie and feeding my female beardie Chica by hand some bananas, things of that nature, to kind of just show their docile behavior and how well they do with even small children, as long as you teach your children to handle them properly. And lastly, I have my source page. I've listed the link of my source and then a funny little thing. So you mean to tell me I'm not a real dinosaur? And that is it.